What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into Neil Young's studio catalog. Even though it's not Friday, we have an official studio release because Neil has once again done that awesome thing where he's releasing a lost album. Released in 2022, recorded back in 2000, 2001. Today I'm going to talk about Neil Young and Crazy Horse's Toast, the album that was not released because it was just too depressing. Instead, we got Are You Passionate, which contains one, two, three, four of the songs on here. One of them, the song that's on here, the Crazy Horse version. The other three redone with Booker T and the MGs. And this, I think, is the most fascinating of his sort of lost album releases. Chrome Dreams 2, Hitchhiker, Homegrown, all really good listens with maybe different versions or just different classic Neil songs in a different context that would eventually get released on other albums, possibly redone. But this, those are great albums, but this, I think, has a power that those other ones don't. And it's only been out but not even 3 years now. Came out in the summer of 2022. And it was one of those when it first came out, I thought, okay, this is maybe four of these songs represented on, there's only 7 songs. It's a long album though. It's over 50 minutes long. Nice stretched out jams on this album. But it really felt like the sequencing was kind of off at first for me. It opens up with Quit, a slow song, the best slow song on Are You Passionate? But it was a weird opener. And then it closes with, just a longer version of the jam that's on Are You Passionate? She's a Healer. Here it's called Boom, Boom, Boom. And this felt just kind of like, oh, okay, Crazy Horse took a run at these songs. For some reason, Neil didn't like it or the studio didn't like it. He took the songs to Booker T and the MGs. They redid a couple, added a whole bunch of really good Donald Duck Dunn-driven upbeat songs, put out Are You Passionate instead. And so when I first heard this, especially with Quit being the opener, I was like, interesting choice for an opener. The second song, I think, is the weakest song on the album. I've come to like it a lot more over the last couple of years, but I thought it was the weakest song in the album. Then Going Home, I'd already heard on Are You Passionate? And then we get this weird riff-driven song about a lumberjack. Then we get this almost Latin-flavored song that has some fantastic 60s, almost surf guitar in it. That's absolutely amazing. We get a redoing of Mr. Disappointment off Are You Passionate? And then we get a longer version of the jam. I'm going to go through those again in a minute. But it really felt like we were just retreading the old ground, and I was getting slightly different versions of these songs, most of which I already knew. But then the more I listened to it, and for some reason, it's one of those Neil albums that so what I do when I listen to my Neil albums is they're in order of how I listen to them. So on the shelf, all the Neil albums are together. But the one that's to the far, my left, is the one I most recently listened to. And as we go back, it's the ones I haven't listened to in a while. So every once in a while, I'll reach out one from the back, say, hey, I haven't listened to this in a while. Helps me keep track of, whether I'm listening to some stuff too much. Toast has stayed pretty close to the front because it's just something that brings you back. It's kind of depressing. It's focusing a lot on marital issues. Neil was having problems. He and Peggy were having problems. There's a lot of heartache in here. If you read interviews about the album, apparently it was obvious that Neil was going through some stuff in the recording studio with Crazy Horse. But the brilliance of the album is this is not Ragged Glory. This is not Weld live. This is not Crazy Horse pushing Neil to his noisy, cathartic, let's Sonic Youth it, let's channel punk, let's channel the Godfather of grunge. That energy, it kind of seeps out maybe in Boom Boom Boom, maybe a little bit in Going Home, but for the most part, this is a Crazy Horse that just knows what Neil's feeling. It's giving him just the same rhythmic support they always do and providing just this really, it's weird. To me, they have this really rigid yet somehow elastic ability to lay down grooves where you just know Crazy Horse is just going to pound away. But at the same time, anytime Neil needs space or he needs to calm down a little, they respond immediately. And there's just something so You cannot do these same songs with Booker T and the MGs and have the same effect. Like Neil took these really intense, slower songs and then interspersed them on Are You Passionate with like these upbeat, really great bassline songs. Those are my favorite songs on the album, the upbeat ones. This material was not made for Booker T and the MGs. This material was made for a band like Crazy Horse, who knew Neil, could respond to him, and just it is unlike any other Crazy Horse album in its sort of somberness and its like slow burning intensity and its kind of dourness, but at the same time it's this incredibly intensely burning 50-minute experience. And I think that if this had been released instead of Are You Passionate, we wouldn't have Let's Roll, so we wouldn't have the whole sort of response to 9/11 criticism and the much maligned take that is. We wouldn't have Going Home just kind of standing out in the middle of the album. The predictability of that album with just the upbeat, mid-tempo, slow, upbeat, mid-tempo, slow, literally alternating. It felt, as someone said in a comment earlier, like product, like we're just someone, going through the motions of having a music career. This, I think, changes that narrative a little bit and makes it like, okay, maybe Neil wanted to have a career like Silver and Gold. We're just putting out these albums, having a good time. But then relationship problems got to him. He went to like his like musical compadres of forever and just put out this devastatingly personal but still really enjoyable album. I don't know. I just think this is just, the more I listen to it, the better it gets and the richer it gets and the more of a complete album experience that it becomes. It opens up with Quit, which is also on Are You Passionate. Slow song. Still got those really cool backing vocals. It's a little, definitely does have the same almost, I don't know if bright is the feel, but there's like a darker vibe about this, it being Crazy Horse. I think the guitar tone's a little darker. And the first couple times I listened to it, it's like just a weird opener. It just, I don't know. It's almost like Going Home would have been perfect because it's got that really driving beat to it. But then the more I listen to this album, I'm like, no, this is perfect because no false expectations about what we're getting on this album. Like, this is where Neil is. Like, we're in a land of heartbreak. Like, don't expect songs about, I don't know, his car or his dog, or he's not rallying against the record company this time. He's probably not even going to get political. We're staying in heartbreak land. And the more I listen to this, that opening just, it's perfect. And we get more upbeat, for the next 3 songs, kind of the next 4 songs before we bring it back down. So it really, I don't know, it's like this, it's like a prologue to like a sad movie. We got a sad opening, we're going to have some action, we'll get back to the sadness at the end. Works really well. Standing in the Light of Love, I think is the most average song on here, just kind of your average Crazy Horse rocker. Maybe I think would have worked better had Going Home been next and then Timberline and then you drop this, because I don't think it quite brings the intensity that the album eventually delivers. But it's not a bad song. That riff very much kind of has a Deep Purple dun dun dun, but a really like twisted, distorted, mangled Crazy Horse Neil Young kind of version of that riff. But yeah, it's kind of just your average riff rocker. Then we get Going Home, which is on Are You Passionate? Fantastic, fantastic song. Neil's got that mixture of like referencing Native Americans here in America and the United States with like modern day, a woman driving through the battleground trying to turn her radio down, and just, once again mingling like timelines and like connecting experiences in different eras. This musically absolutely fantastic by Crazy Horse. This very almost like warpath type rhythm, like we're going into battle. Just this steady march the entire time. Some great guitar by Neil. Then we get this neat little song called Timberline. Nice riff, kind of driving this with Neil. This like very nice driving Crazy Horse song. It's about a lumberjack who loses his job. But then we get to, I think the verses or something about, it's about losing your faith. And so even though it seems like it may be allegorical, because ultimately we get to this point where something you believed in is gone and you're just not believing in things anymore. So you get this, what could be a character-driven song about just the economy or something becomes this like really personal, spiritual song about just despair and not having belief in things. So sneaks in the intensity with an otherwise upbeat rock song. Then we get Gateway of Love, which there's a lot of really neat things going with this. Um, there's this really nice, really great guitar early on by Neil that has almost like a Dick Dale, like 60s surf rock type vibe that is really, really cool. And then we just kind of settle in these really nice, tasty Latin groove for the rest of the song. And not like your Carlos Santana secret chord progression type stuff. We're not like fully committing like that. Apparently, they did go somewhere in like the Caribbean or somewhere and like recorded stuff. And I think there's an interview with Frank when he says we came back and everything all of a sudden had a Latin groove. Well, this is the one Latin groove song that made the album. Fits perfectly, like right, doesn't lead off the album to give you a false impression of what's going on, doesn't end the album. It's just like right in the middle. Nice, what? It's like close, like 8-9 minutes long. Some really nice, tasty guitar playing in here. And other than the last jam, the boom, 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 Neil is pretty relatively restrained. Like we're not going for major swaths of feedback or noise, but really just tasty, tasty playing. But yeah, great song. Neil's like in the pocket almost the entire time with his jamming. And then we get How You Doing, which is a early version of Mr. Disappointment. I like this version better. On Mr. Disappointment, the Are You Passionate version, Neil does this thing where he's like doing the lyrics where he's all like talking like, oh, I'm so sad, honey. But like, you know, like this. It's I don't know, it almost feels like he's playing a character. Like I understand he's tapping into some like personal experience, but it's not what Neil has normally done. So it almost feels character driven. Usually if he goes into some weird affectation, it's like a country, like swagger or something like that. This one, it's just the straight Neil voice. I think it works better. I think his like raw emotion comes through better, especially as the song goes on. The title, How You Doing, way better than Mr. Disappointment. How You Doing is like, you know, we've had relationships and they end and you're not sure either one of you want it to end, but it does anyways. And then you run into that person later and you're just like, hey man, how you doing? You know, like you think what there's this weird sense of hope and despair in like the How You Doing, where Mr. Disappointment sounds like the title to like a Fiery Furnaces song. Mr. Disappointment, bought me some tea. We went out for coffee, you know, just, you know, Eleanor spitting out those lyrics like that. It just, or like a Yola Tango song between like two epic jams, and in the middle you have Mr. Disappointment. I don't know. I didn't like the title. I think How You Doing's a much better title. But yeah, it really works here way better than I think it does on Are You Passionate. It's got a power, it's got an impact. You know, we have opener, a slow song, then we essentially have 1, 2, 3, 4 pretty upbeat, aggressive, Crazy Horse type songs. So when we finally bring it down, it works perfectly. And then the album ends with like, you know, a 13+ minute sort of re-jam of She's a Healer, just the Crazy Horse version of it, with some really, really tasty trumpet. It just has this it feels less like an actual jam than it feels more of like an emotional catharsis at the end of the album that Neil just needs. And he needs to take his time doing it. He's in no rush. 13 minutes. If I need 13 minutes, I'm taking it. I think the extra time completely pays off. The guitar playing can get a little more intense. And because the song's just going on and on, when the guitar playing gets more intense, it just kind of makes sense. Like, I don't think he and his wife divorced at this time. I don't think they divorced for like a decade or so later. So in a sense, whatever he's going through probably was prolonged, and that intensity comes through in the music. And then the background vocals are still there. And every time the background vocals come in, it just feels like there's a relationship falling apart, but there's this thing like, oh, we're still here. There's still reality sticking around. We're holding it down while everything else becomes like chaotic. It's just a perfect ending for this album. Yeah, I really, really, really like this album a lot. Where would I rank the songs if I had to rank the songs? I have the songs right there. I do think the jam, mainly because it's in the context of the album, it just works better. But I've flipped them from Are You Passionate? Are You Passionate? I'd Going Home at number 1, the solo Crazy Horse, and then the jam at number 2. I flipped them for this one. I do think That jam does have this really cathartic energy that's very much needed on this album. After what? It's a 50-minute album. That's like 13. So after like 38 minutes, after essentially a full album of kind of being heartbroken, you finally get this like cathartic jam at the end. Absolutely perfect. Just quitting the two slow songs. They were towards the bottom half of my ranking for Are You Passionate. I don't think they were in the pocket of what Booker T and the MGs do. And I think the alternating of mid-tempo to slow songs on the album undercuts their effectiveness. Here they're perfect. Timberline, the Latin song, and then the last song would be that just straightforward Crazy Horse Rocker. And as far as where I would rank the albums, it is not in the top 12. After the Gold Rush is still there. Congratulations, After the Gold Rush. You might still be there when all is said and done in the top 10. That's what we're looking at. But I have it all the way up at number 17, which actually seems low, but this is a Neo catalog, and you look what's below it. Trans, Reactor, Silver and Gold, Are You Passionate? I kind of, early days, this one kind of reminded me of early days in a sense that it's like we're going back in time to songs we've been familiar with when it was released. And listening to early days, as much as I enjoy it, it always really, really compels me to want to go listen to like the later versions of the songs on that or the live versions. Toast doesn't compel me to go listen to Are You Passionate? Like, Toast, I don't know, Toast makes me see the flaws in Are You Passionate a little bit more and wishes the timeline was switched. And Toast was released in 2002, and Are You Passionate was released 20 years later as the Lost album. I think his official catalog of that era, the 2000s, I think it looks a little stronger. I think Silver and Gold possibly plays a little better if Toast follows. But anyways, yeah, that's my ranking. I got a lot of thoughts on Toast. I feel at some point this there's something more to be said about this. I'm done for now. I'm not going to go, but I think this is a fascinating listen. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me your thoughts on this album, on any of those albums, on Are You Passionate, things I might have messed up on, things I missed. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.